I got a phone call last night from one of the 7 incredible women in Pleasanton whose solidarity you'd gotten. So they asked me to extend their support and solidarity, and I think if they could see you all, they also would have told me to say that they are so thrilled that you're here, so thrilled that so many of you whose consciousness was shaped in the 80s and 90s and not in the 60s and 70s are here to help carry the torch, to speak truth, which is what we're doing. And I want to go back. Bill Clinton is in Africa perpetuating lies, trying to distort history. He goes to Ghana and he talks about slavery, but, quote, won't apologize for it, as if you can just skip around the fact that this country was part of imprisoning African people. He has the audacity to talk about W.E.B. Du Bois as a great African-American intellectual and not say that he was a revolutionary that was hounded out of this country for fighting for black liberation. He can talk about Kwame Nkrumah's Ghana and not talk about the fact that U.S. and other imperialist countries did everything they could to destroy Ghana when it was in the forefront of fighting against colonialism and imperialism in this country. I want to say one quick thing, particularly as a white person here, and the fact is that there are about a dozen white political prisoners in this country as well. Our history of struggle as a people here is pretty spotty. Unfortunately, the vast majority of white people, most of the time, have gone with the flow of the ruling class in this country. But I think the people in prison represent a different history that we can continue to build on. Whatever our own particular political lines were, I guarantee you, and I know almost all of them personally, people are totally committed against racism, people are totally committed against sexism, against every form of oppression, and know that we'll only have a progressive country and a revolutionary struggle if it's really based on concrete solidarity.
Free Michelle McGee. We say amnesty for Assata Shakur. And of course we say freedom for Mumia Abu-Jamal and all political prisoners. Free Mumia Abu-Jamal. See all of the wonderful signs that are going up. He is the most eloquent spokesperson against the death penalty in the world. We need him out here among us today. The 150 political prisoners for whom we demand amnesty are doing time in an ever-expanding system of prisons and jails in which almost 2 million people are caged. Almost 2 million people are caged. This system can now be called a prison industrial complex. A prison industrial complex. In other words, there is this phenomenal expansion of jails and prisons and vast increase of the numbers of men and women who are under the supervision and surveillance of the criminal justice system. And there is an increasingly symbiotic relationship between the corporate capitalist structure in this country and the punishment industry. And this relationship, of course, includes the increasing privatization of prisons and of the services and goods that are provided to prisoners. I mean, MCI is making a lot of money on those long-distance phone calls, those collect calls that prisoners place to their families and friends. In other words, punishment has become profitable. Punishment is a source of profit. And in this prison industrial complex, there is the increasing use of the bodies of people of color as the raw material for this profit. Slavery, absolutely. Slavery. And prison construction is seen as providing a mounting economic vitality, particularly in rural communities. So I just want to say my time is up. So I want to say that this country has always relied on systems of confinement. Someone evoked slavery a moment ago. Slavery was a system of confinement. The mission system and the reservation system are systems of confinement for indigenous people, Native American people. Japanese American citizens were placed behind bars in internment camps during World War II. And certainly the prison industrial complex nurtures itself from these historical models of confinement. So I want to say finally that if we ever needed to build a radical movement before, we need to do it now, right now. Imprisonment is not a solution. Imprisonment is not a solution. Instead of prisons, we need schools and colleges and universities. Instead of 3-strike laws and mandatory minimums, we need free drug rehabilitation programs. Instead of supermaxes, we need free health care. Instead of bars and razor wire, we need affordable housing and jobs. Dismantle the prison industrial complex and free all political prisoners. Thank you.
The reason that we come today is because we understand the connection, the relationship, the inseparable relationship between the people's struggle for freedom and the people's struggle to free their political prisoners and their prisoners of war. As we look back historically at this empire, and we see how it has stretched out its technicals all over the world, and it has dug them deep into the veins of suffering people, we realize that historically, if we look at Cuba, that Fidel Castro was once a political prisoner. And it was only when Fidel Castro was able to come out of prison and go into the Oriente province and gather up the people and strike a blow for freedom, that Cuba rise from the stink of imperialism. And we look historically, and we see Kwame Nkrumah in Ghana, and we see how the people in Ghana linked the struggle for independence with the struggle for the freedom of Kwame Nkrumah. And it was only when the people were able to vote to free Kwame Nkrumah that they were able to vote for independence. All over the world, the struggle for the freedom of the political prisoners. And we see how today, where Palestinians are interned, and where our brothers and sisters in Azania in southern Africa have been interned, and those struggles lay yet unfulfilled, then we begin to understand history. Those of us who were taught his story and not really history, when they talked to us about the storming of the Bastille in France, we begin to know that you can have no revolution unless you have a revolution for the freedom of your people behind bars. Mutulu Shakur wants to be free, but not just to be free for himself. Sundi Allah and Sekou Asada wants to come home. Nihanda Abiadun wants to come home. The Puerto Ricans want to be free, but they not only want their personal freedom, they want the freedom, the absolute freedom of their people. That's why there can be no compromise. This is a 1998 decolonization movement. This is a 1998 independence movement. And we fight not only for the independence of New Africa, but we say that the whole empire's got to go.
Come and join the October 10th